We didn't have our usual diseases like leaf rust, stripe rust, tan spot, speckled leaf blotch. We just didn't have those. We didn't have it because of the dry conditions, but we also didn't have it because of the dry conditions down in Oklahoma and Texas. Their wheat crop was poor, and so really those diseases just didn't have a chance. Now the disease of the year for much of Oklahoma and Kansas and up into Nebraska even was barley yellow dwarf. And you think back, well, now why would barley yellow dwarf happen? Well, last fall we had a pretty long fall. Of course it never, it didn't rain a whole lot, and it didn't allow a lot of growth, but it allowed the aphid population to build up, and then that's what really caused the barley yellow dwarf infections, that viral infection. The aphids carry or vector the virus, and so they inject it into the wheat plant. So they had all this time before Christmas time to do that, and so that's why we had lots of barley yellow dwarf this year. I look at maturity, basically adaptability. Maturity, if it's down south in the southern part of the state, I'm not going to be growing a Nebraska wheat because they're too tall, too late. Okay, so height may be involved. Northwest Kansas, I don't really want to grow a really super short one. I want some straw. Okay, and the maturity could be a little bit later than those that are down here in the south central part of the state. So height, maturity, those are some issues that I look at. Genetic background. Okay, if I've only planted one variety on my farm, then I'm not too worried about genetic background other than yield. I want the high yielding variety. But if I'm growing several varieties, 3, 4, 5 varieties, I don't want them all to have the same genetic background. And we saw last year the 2010 crop really got hurt by stripe rust, especially if it had Jagger in the background. And most of our varieties at that time had Jagger in the background. That really sifted the varieties out with susceptibility to stripe rust. If it had Jagger in it, it really got hurt by stripe rust. So from this point on, we're seeing a lot of the varieties coming out that don't have much Jagger or none in this background. So genetic diversity background would be what I'd be looking for. Pest resistance to leaf rust, stripe rust, tan spot, speckled leaf blotch, barley yellow dwarf. And out west, we really don't have much that's totally resistant to wheat streak mosaic. We have a white wheat, Ronell, that has good resistance to wheat streak mosaic. But we're having some varieties that have kind of intermediate resistance. So I'd be looking at those. Varieties, and then also control your volunteer. Have you and your neighbor control the volunteer wheat. That'll really cut down on wheat streak mosaic.